Once again, welcome to ITSE 1345. This is Competency 1. And it has to do with class orientation. One of the difficulties in doing distance learning is that you really don't have the resources that you have on campus. So one of the things we struggle with is to help a student establish the resources that they need to succeed in this class. So throughout the semester, we'll be dealing with 2 databases to support the idea of PL/SQL. There is a database called BrewBeans that is very, very well defined, and we're going to use this BrewBean database to support the textbook information. So, you know, throughout the textbook, they'll give examples, and then at the back of the chapter, they'll have some reviews, and then there'll be a database that'll support this whole process. Now, the BrewBean database has the ability where, as you do the problems, I will present the solutions to you after you submit your work. So you'll do the work, submit the work, and then I'll give you the solutions, and then you can go back and do a second submittal with the process intact. That is how we're going to learn how to do PL/SQL. Second to that is the orders database. Now the orders database is where you are actually going to do the lab work. So we'll have the BrewBean database that is totally textbook supported, and then we're going to have, on the other hand, the lab portion where you will use what you learn from the textbook to reconstruct the database that will support the lab work. Now, because of that, if you're going to do this at home, you will need, once again, to build a database. Now, if this is the second class and you took 2309 and then you're going to follow it up with 1345, you already have a lot of the tools in place to support this class. So all you'll do is create a secondary database, the BrewBean, and then the database for the lab. But you already have the bases. You already have the SQL. You have developer. Now, if you're new to this class and you haven't really built the database, you'll have to download the 11G Express from Oracle, which is free. You'll also get the SQL developer free. And those are 32-bit based products. Now you can do the 64-bit products, but those are not really as user-friendly, but they do work. So if you have a 64-bit machine, you'll be able to download the standard Oracle product with the supporting SQL developer to conduct this class. Now, that said, what I need for you guys to understand is that as we progress through this class, there'll be assessments. So there'll be assessments, there'll be reviews, there'll be assessments to familiarize yourself with the material. And then we're going to have a little practice test. Now, in the classroom, there's a lot of work that you can do that I can interact with the students that really makes the class progress, especially when a student has problems. They can always ask a question, so there's always interaction. When you're working from home, that interaction is lacking. So what we try to do to compensate for that is have some assessments or practices at the end of every chapter that will contribute to the class participation process. Now, so during the orientation, we're talking about building the database at home. And if you look on the Blackboard website, it'll have all the instructions to do that. If you did the 2309, this will be a breeze to do the 1345 to establish the baseline that you're going to work with. Now, what we've also tried to do with this process is establish a way to kind of shortcut your way through this whole class. So this is the orientation process. Now, as we begin into Competency 2, when you begin into Competency 2, what you can do is, if you feel that you are strong enough to bypass Competency 2, we will provide a very extensive assessment that is not quite really a placement, but yeah, if you do well, you can go to Competency 3. So what we're doing is, if you feel you're strong enough in a certain area, you can effectively test out of it. So we've established this. So what you do is you look at the material. If you feel you are strong enough, you'll take that competency. Now, understanding that competency 2 has chapter 1, 2, and 3. So that means that place-out mechanism is designed to cover chapters 1, 2, and 3. If you do not do well, then you go to the regular chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And this whole semester will be based that way, in that when you get to competency 3, you'll have chapter 4, 5, and 6. And then at that point, what you'll do is, if you feel strong enough, you can place out of that and progress. If not, then you go through the whole chapter progress. But at the end of every chapter, we will have some extensive review process, some extensive practice assessment. Now, the information at the back of the chapters is called hands-on. So in order to keep with the labeling that the textbook uses, there are hands-on events that you'll be doing in Blackboard. So the process continues with orientation and then into competency 2. Now, this probably in competency 1, so this basically kind of comes together and closes competency 1.